If you're in your 20s and you want to get rich, you clicked on the right video. You see, if you were to ask most people, would you like to be a millionaire? I'm sure you agree that most people would say yes, absolutely. In fact, if we take a look at the stats, half of millennials think they will become a millionaire in their lifetime, and that same number skyrockets to 72% when it comes to Gen Z. And if we look at the raw data, the number of millionaires over the world has doubled in the last decade. Now the average millionaire is 57 years old. Having a million or two in the bank at 57 is impressive, but do you know what's even more impressive? Having millions in the bank in your 20s. And nowadays, it is actually possible to become a millionaire in your 20s. Just a few decades ago, it was next to impossible. So what changed? The arrival of the internet, and more precisely, of social media platforms. But we'll come back to that in just an instant. If you know my story, then you'll know I personally went from sleeping in a basement infested with rats to staying in some of the best buildings in the world. And the craziest part is that not too long ago, I was still a shy, weak, anxious guy who couldn't even leave his parents' house because he had crippling social anxiety. So how I was able to achieve that? The answer lies in one simple word: habit. You see, a lot of people mistakenly attribute success to just luck or circumstances, and while luck and circumstances do play a part, they are far from telling the whole story. The simple truth is this: your business is a reflection of who you are, which is exactly why if you have the wrong habits, not only will you never actually succeed in business, but you will also have to live with that feeling of defeat forever. And believe me, that is not something that you want. Now on the opposite, if you are clever enough to implement and to stick to the right habits, believe me when I say you will be able to achieve things way beyond what you thought was even possible. Which is exactly why my goal with this video is to share with you 6 habits that if you implement and stay consistent with can turn you into a multi-millionaire in your 20s. The first habit I'd like to share with you is asking yourself the right questions. The truth is this: most people simply walk through life without intent. They wake up in the morning, but they don't have a plan. They just let life take them wherever it wants to take them. They sit down at their desk, open up their laptop, but they don't even know what to do. They don't have a clear plan to follow. So they waste countless precious hours that instead they could simply be getting stuff done, moving the needle forward. I'm sure you've heard the following quote: the best way to predict the future is actually to create it. Most people just get out of bed in the morning and they hope today will be good, instead of actually taking the responsibility to make today a great, productive day. If at work they see their colleague getting the promotion, climbing through the ranks, and they don't, they will just assume, oh, he got lucky, life is unfair. But they are not going to look at the raw facts and ask themselves, what did he do to deserve that promotion? How did he convince the boss? Most people simply don't see opportunities because they don't ask themselves the right questions. They go for a walk outside, they walk into a cafe, they get a latte, and they don't ask themselves, how do these businesses actually make money? How can I emulate them? What can I learn from them? How can I study the competition, see what's out there in the market, and find a way to come up with a better product, a better service? Instead of asking, what can I do to afford this? They simply tell themselves, I can't afford it, or oh no, it's too expensive. The issue is that when you do this, it automatically closes off your mind's way of coming up with a plan to reach that outcome. And that is exactly why you need to start asking yourself the right questions. Not only is it gonna help you to spot opportunities that most people can't even see, but let's say you're stuck, you're facing an issue in your business. If you ask yourself the right questions, you'll be able to find the root cause, solve it, and move forward. If you study ultra successful people, you will see that most of them have a lot of curiosity. They always want to know how things work, why a business is following a specific strategy instead of following a completely different one. Now the next habit that will make you a millionaire in your 20s, it might surprise you, but it's having a conversation with a stranger every single day. You've got to understand that business is all about people, so needless to say your social skills do matter. And again, that comes from a guy who was so anxious he couldn't even take a phone call or leave his parents' house. For 7 months, I procrastinated starting my own business because I was simply afraid and not bold enough to push past that fear. But at some point, I just got sick and tired of my situation. I've always had big goals, big dreams, always wanted to do things, so I knew I couldn't stay like that. So at some point, because I couldn't take it anymore, I forced myself to get out of my comfort zone every single day. And how did I do this? By doing something I was afraid to do every single day. So I started to go outside, to take phone calls, to speak to people. Every time I felt afraid to do something, I would force myself to do it. And every single time, I noticed something funny. Every time I would overcome a fear, I'd realize, that's it? That wasn't that scary after all. Most of the time, you are only limiting yourself in your head. All those nightmare scenarios that you're thinking of right now. Bankruptcy, losing everything, breaking up with the love of your life. Most of the time, these things are not actually gonna happen. But what they will do, however, is hold you back, prevent you from taking action and achieving the extraordinary. So never ever let let an imaginary fear prevent you from actually taking action, because you never know what's on the other side. And let me tell you one thing, I'm glad I pushed past every fear I had. Even to this day I still do it. I'm still afraid of some things, and whenever I feel that fear, I force myself to do that thing I'm so afraid of. And on the other side, there's growth, there's success, there's achievement. So it is worth it. Improving my social skills is the one thing that changed every aspect of my life for the better. Now, if you want to learn more about social skills, I highly suggest you read the following books: How to Win Friends and Influence People, and then The 48 Laws of Power and The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. These 3 books alone will teach you more about human psychology, about social skills, than most psychiatrists even claim to know. But the best piece of advice I can give you when it comes to improving your social skills is to listen more than you speak. You've got to realize that most people are extremely self-centered. When you think that someone is judging you, in reality, they're afraid of what you're thinking about them. They're thinking about themselves and not about you. Human beings are wired to be this way. And the funny thing is that you'd think the more you speak, the more you draw attention to yourself, right? But the opposite is actually true. When you become the quiet one in the room, all of a sudden, the attention will shift towards you. And by listening more than you talk, you will learn a lot of valuable insights. At the end of the day, if you want to succeed in business, it's all about giving other people what they want, not what you think they want. Now, if you truly want this type of life, if you truly want the expensive cars, the dreamlike vacations, the total freedom and abundance, you need to stop watching the clock. A lot of people are obsessed with how many hours they work per week. When the 9 to 5 became the norm for most people, people were just so focused on getting to work and then leaving work at 5 p.m. But that's it. Well, let me tell you one thing. If you want to achieve more than 99% of people ever will, if you want to live a better life, you want the best things that this world has to offer, guess what? You will need to do what only 1% of people is actually willing to do. You'll need to put in all the sacrifices, all the work, go above and beyond. There is simply no other way around. So if you think that you can just think, oh, I'm gonna work from 9 to 5 and then I'll become a multi-millionaire in my 20s, let me tell you one thing, you won't. Because you are going to be competing against guys like me who are not gonna stop, who will put in the hours as long as it takes. I'll go to sleep at 10, 11 and get up at 6 if I have to. This life isn't for the faint of heart. If you have something to do, you do it, and then you only stop when it's done. This life requires you to develop a laser focus on your vision and on your mission. Anything else becomes completely irrelevant. Everything that you do fuels the big goal that you want to achieve. So get in the habit of doing more than what is required, because I can guarantee that if you do this, you will become extremely successful. But the simple truth is this: most people are simply not willing to do more, and that's why they're not getting better results. At the end of the day, you can't expect to join the top 1%, to experience the best type of life that we have ever seen, and not have to put an extraordinary amount of work, effort, and sacrifice to reach the top. When you're on top of the mountain, the view is beautiful, but I'm gonna be honest with you, the climb is exhausting, so don't underestimate it. Now, if you truly want to become extremely wealthy in your 20s, you need to make it a priority to expose yourself to luxury more often. The truth is, most people have a lot of misconceptions about how the rich operate, how they live. It's kind of funny, but a couple years back, I went into a 5-star hotel for the first time, so I dressed very elegantly for the occasion. In my mind, prior to going, everyone would be wearing suits, dressing very elegantly, but the funny thing is that I show up at the hotel, and right before I walk in it, I see some people walking in there wearing pajama pants, and I'm like, what? And you wanna know what's crazy? I was the one who was the most well-dressed in the entire hotel, but believe me, I wasn't the richest. So it's kind of funny to see how the middle class think that the rich operate, behave, even dress, and then you see what actually rich people do, and it can be completely different. Now, obviously, rich people spend money on expensive clothes, expensive cars, nice hotels, nice vacations, but they can show up to a 5-star hotel in pajamas because they simply have the money, so it doesn't matter. They don't have to prove to anyone else what they are worth. If you take a look at people like Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, they're not wearing $1,000 shirts every single day, or Gucci, Balenciaga. You never see them with a big logo. And in fact, you'd never see me with a big Gucci logo, because that is not my thing. That is not the way that I dress. I could be wearing a $500 shirt, a $10,000 shirt, but you wouldn't even know it. But what you've got to understand is this: what you put on a pedestal will most likely never be yours, because you tell yourself on a subconscious level you don't have what it takes to achieve it, to get it. So then, when it's time to take action, on a subconscious level, you won't even believe that you can reach your goal. So the quality of your work, how high is it really going to be? I used to put wealth, money, supercars on a pedestal, but then you get into a supercar and you realize it's just a car. Like, it's amazing for sure, don't get me wrong, I love Ferraris, but at the end of the day, it is still a car. As long as you've got the money to pay for it, you can have it. You go to the dealership, you can buy the car or even lease it. No one cares how you made the money. So start exposing yourself to luxury more often. You're allowed to walk into a 5-star hotel, see what's around. You can go to a nice restaurant, just take a coffee, a tea, even just a breakfast. You can go to the Ferrari dealership and take a look at the cars. By doing this, you will truly see there are worlds within worlds. Because while some people struggle to get a house, some people have the money to buy 10 cars worth $300,000 each. Now the next thing I would like to share with you that will absolutely make you a millionaire in your 20s, it's investing in assets instead of in liabilities. You see, the middle class only buys liabilities, or they possess very few assets. They buy a home, and while they consider it an asset because it might gain value over the years, over decades, it is not actually an asset. It's not making them money. It's taking money out of their pocket. So whereas the middle class and poor people only buy liabilities because a lot of them, to be honest, they're not even aware of the whole concept of liabilities and assets in the first place. But what rich people do instead is that they make money first through either a high-paying career or starting their own business, and then with some of the profits generated with their career or business, they reinvest that into buying assets. And only then, with the returns from their different investments, do they actually get to spend money, cover their basic monthly expenses, even their lifestyle expenses. And you've got to understand that every single year that you don't invest, you are losing money. That is why the whole concept of saving money, it is completely futile. First, you can only save so much money, and then with inflation, like I said, year after year, that money is worth less and less and less. So doing nothing is exactly the same as throwing money out the window. You're only losing it. But unlike some financial gurus try to claim, investing will not make the average person rich. I mean, sure, if you want to maybe have $1 million or $2 million in the bank when you're 60 years old, 70 years old, go ahead, listen to their advice, invest in a 401k or in the stock market. But if you want to be rich while you're young, you need to take control of your life, not wait for the market to, in 60 years, pay you enough money so you can retire peacefully. Instead, you either need to go for a high-paying career, but that path is extremely difficult, or you need to start your own business. Which brings me to the next point. You need to start your own business. Like I said, technically speaking, you could become a millionaire through a high-paying career. You could become a lawyer in New York. You could get incredible opportunities. But first, not everyone has access to those jobs in the first place, and the competition to get the top positions in the top companies is ruthless. And most of the time, to even get a shot at actually getting these jobs, you would need to study in fancy universities, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, and you would also need to know the right people. And let's say you do manage to get a high-paying job in a top company in a booming industry. At the end of the day, you don't really control if you're gonna get the promotion, if you'll be able to climb through the ranks. You can influence the outcome, but you never have a guarantee for sure. It's the same thing with investing in real estate or in the stock market. There could be an economic crisis for a reason that you couldn't anticipate. Something could go wrong and you could waste decades of your life and realize, I just wasted my life. So the downside of these two paths, while they can actually make you a millionaire in your lifetime, is that they are extremely difficult to begin with, they cost a lot of money, and also they are not guaranteed whatsoever. With a business, however, you get to control more variables. Even if there is, let's say, a recession, you can try to come up with better strategies to still grow your business, to expand, to thrive even in the middle of a crisis. If you're an employee, you don't necessarily get a say on how the boss is running the business. So for all you know, you could make the wrong decisions and sink the company and you with it. And that's also the downside of starting a startup. Because while these businesses can make hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars, most of the time you'd need to get investors. So this means that you lose ownership over your business. You can retain a part of it, but investors will have a say in the way that you run your business, and this can be extremely limiting. But why should you worry about making hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, before you even make your first $10,000 per month, one step at a time? If you want to achieve great things, extraordinary things, I know you can do it, but it is gonna take time. So you've got to put in the work day after day and be patient. Believe me when I say, at some point the results will come. You just mustn't give up. Now, if you'd like to figure out what is the best online business to start as a beginner, I've recorded a free video in which I analyze every popular online business model. Together we take a look at the pros, at the cons. That way you can figure out which one is the best online business model to start for you. If you're interested, I'll leave the link in the description below. Now with that said, what are you waiting for? It's time to get to work.